They told me they couldn't help save my son, then spent 3 times his life on champagne and flowers. That sentence still cuts through every dream I have. The oxygen hissed beside him, steady and cruel. White light poured over the bed, too clean, too calm for what was dying inside me. Ethan was 7. He had freckles that vanished when he got sick. The doctor's voice carried numbers, not hope. $85,000 for full treatment, half up front. Numbers, always numbers. I nodded like I could somehow negotiate with math. 2 hours later, I was standing in my parents' kitchen. Marble counters, jazz humming low. The smell of wine and lemon polish. Claire, my sister, was showing off her engagement ring. The diamond caught every bit of light and threw it right back at me. "Isn't it perfect?" she asked, turning her hand under the chandelier. Mom smiled. Dad poured champagne. I was still wearing my hospital bracelet when I said, "Ethan's treatment costs $85,000. The insurance won't cover it." Dad's smile barely wavered. "That's a lot of money, Em. I'll pay you back every month, please." Mom's hand rested on my sleeve. "We have to think of our future, too. Your father's retirement. Claire's wedding. Claire's wedding." The words echoed, hollow and endless. Then I saw it. The catering quotes, the floral arrangements, the venue invoice. $230,000. A wedding worth nearly 3 times my child's chance to live. I laughed. It came out broken. "You're spending more to celebrate than to save." No one spoke. The champagne fizzed quietly in the corner. When I went back to the hospital, Ethan was sleeping. The tube trembled each time he fought for breath. I placed 2 papers side by side on the plastic table. One hospital invoice, one wedding invitation. One said, "Pay immediately." The other said, "Save the date." They chose the wedding. The oxygen hissed. Hope leaked out. Follow if you've ever watched love turn into a receipt. Rain tapped against the kitchen window that morning, steady and polite, like it didn't want to interrupt. I hadn't slept. The house smelled faintly of bleach and reheated soup. Ethan's toys sat untouched in a basket near the couch, their bright colors too loud for the silence that filled the room. The phone buzzed once. It was Claire. She sent a photo, her wedding dress fitting. Lace, pearls, and a caption, "Mom says it's the one." No question, no hello. Just a picture that cost more than the medication my son needed. I typed a reply. Deleted it. A week later, Mom called. Her voice was syrup sweet, the kind that sticks before it stings. "We've been worried," she said. "You sounded so tense the other day. Maybe you should talk to someone. Grief does strange things." Grief. He was still alive. "I'm not grieving," I whispered. "I'm trying to keep him that way." She sighed. "You've always been dramatic, Emily. Try to stay positive. Claire's big day is coming. Don't let your energy bring everyone down." My energy. I looked at the unpaid bills on the counter, the half-empty pill bottle. Positive, sure. Days blurred together after that. Hospital visits, phone calls that ended with silence. Dad stopped answering altogether. When he finally did, it was by accident. I heard background laughter, clinking glasses, then his voice. "Em, we've done what we can. You need to accept reality." Reality. Like a diagnosis, cold and sterile. At the hospital, I sat through nights that stretched into dawn, holding Ethan's hand while the monitors blinked in green rhythm. The smell of sanitizer clung to my hair, my clothes, my skin. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the vending machine glass and not recognize the hollow-eyed woman staring back. One morning, a nurse left a folded blanket on the chair beside me. "You should rest," she whispered. "You look like you've been fighting a storm alone." I almost smiled. She wasn't wrong. When I finally went home, the fridge hummed in the dark. I stood in front of it, not hungry, just listening to something that wasn't judgment. The apartment was colder than I remembered. At the grocery store, a woman from church recognized me. Her smile faltered when she asked about Ethan. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "your mom told us he's stable now. You must feel relieved." Stable. I wanted to laugh, but the sound caught in my throat. They'd rewritten the story for me, turned desperation into exaggeration, grief into guilt. At night, I'd count the seconds between Ethan's coughs in the next room. 3, 4, 5. The world outside moved on. Church luncheons, wedding rehearsals, family group texts filled with emojis and floral arrangements. I stopped opening them. Stopped answering. One evening, Claire showed up unannounced. Her perfume hit first, something floral, expensive, unbearable. She walked through my door like she owned the air inside it. "You've been avoiding everyone," she said. "Mom's worried. Dad, too. You can't keep blaming us for everything." I stared at her, exhausted. "You spent $200,000 to look perfect, Claire. I spent every breath trying to keep him alive." Her eyes flashed, but she didn't speak. She just looked around my dim kitchen, the pile of medical forms, the clock blinking red, 12 on chalk. "Maybe," she said finally, "you should let him rest. God has a plan." Something inside me cracked. Not loud, not visible, but final. The rain started again, and I let it drown out the sound of her leaving. The printer hummed in the quiet apartment, spitting out one bill after another. Paper piled like snow on the kitchen counter, white and endless. Each page had a number. None of them forgave me. The hospital wanted $42,000 more. The insurance said, pending review. My savings said 0. I sat on the floor with a pen and a calculator, the screen flickering in the dim light. 85,000 minus 12,000 raised from strangers online. 73,000 still to go. Numbers don't lie. They just wait for you to break. Outside, I could hear laughter drifting from the next building. Music, glasses clinking, someone shouting, "To love!" It was a rehearsal dinner. Claire's, maybe. Or just the universe being cruelly specific. I turned on the laptop. A new email waited from my mother. Subject, wedding itinerary. I opened it, knowing I shouldn't. 3 attachments, each more polished than the last. Floral budgets, venue fees, photography deposits. 230,000 line by line. They had paid the florist $36,000. $36,000 for flowers that would die in 2 days. My chest went cold. Ethan's medical device rental for the month, $36,000. The same number. I stared at the screen until it blurred, then I printed it too, and set the papers side by side, their expenses and my invoices. The ink smelled warm, chemical, real. I couldn't unsee it anymore. The scale was obscene. Their joy had a price tag, and it was my son's oxygen. That night, I drove to their house. The neighborhood was glowing. Porch lights, trimmed hedges, a wedding banner hanging from the mailbox. The air smelled like lilies and rain. Through the window, I saw Claire arranging gift boxes. Mom was laughing about seating charts. Dad was on his laptop, glasses perched low, scrolling through a spreadsheet. I didn't knock. I just stood there for a while, the rain soaking my coat, the papers in my hand turning soft and wrinkled. When the door opened, Mom froze. "Emily," I stepped inside, dripping on the hardwood. She reached for a towel, but I shook my head. "No, I'm fine." My voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. I placed the 2 stacks of paper on their table. "This is what I owe the hospital," I said. "And this is what you're paying for Claire's flowers." Dad glanced down, frowned. "You shouldn't bring this here. It's not the time." "Not the time?" I almost laughed. "It's exactly the time. Numbers don't care about your schedule." The air shifted. Claire stood in the doorway, eyes wide. For a second, no one spoke. Then I turned, walked back out into the rain, the sound of it louder than any apology they didn't say. The papers bled ink in my hands, and for the first time I let them. The church smelled of lilies and rain. Outside, umbrellas bloomed like bruises under the gray sky. Inside, everything gleamed gold and white, too bright, too holy for what it hid. Claire's wedding day. I hadn't planned to come. But the hospital had called that morning. Ethan's numbers had dropped again. They needed my consent for another round of treatment. Instead, I found myself here, frozen in the back pew, clutching my phone like a heartbeat. The organ thundered. People rose to see her. Claire floated down the aisle in lace and light, every step a promise I couldn't afford. My parents stood proud, radiant, untouched by consequence. I couldn't breathe. The priest began to speak. His words blurred into rhythm and echo. Forever, cherish, honor. I stared at my phone screen instead, at the blinking notification. Hospital, urgent. I slipped out to the hallway. The marble echoed under my heels. "Ms. Carter," the nurse said when I answered, "we need a decision. The treatment window is closing." Her tone was careful, practiced. "Do it," I said. "Please do it." The call cut. The church bells rang. Applause filled the corridor like a wave breaking through glass. They were married. Back inside, champagne sparkled in tall flutes. Laughter rose and fell. I found a corner seat near the door, invisible among sequins and perfume. Someone toasted to love that endures, and my throat tightened. Then the photographer shouted, "Family picture!" Mom turned, her smile stretched thin. "Come on, Em, we're all here. All." That word scraped raw. I walked forward, heels slicing through the laughter. The crowd shifted, whispered. I stopped by the cake table, its icing perfect, untouched. "I brought something," I said quietly. "A gift." Claire blinked. "What is that?" "An invoice." I set the envelope down. $85,000. Half due now, apparently. Gasps spread through the room. Dad's face reddened. "Emily, not here." "Where then?" I asked. "You bought flowers that cost more than his life." The silence after was total. Even the band stopped. Mom whispered, "People are watching." "They should," I said. I turned and walked away. My heels clicked against tile, sharp as a heartbeat. No one followed. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting. The sky had deepened to black, heavy with unspent rain. I reached the car and the phone rang again. Unknown number. A doctor's voice, calm, distant. "We did everything we could. Everything we could." The words hollowed the night. I stood there, motionless, dress damp at the hem. Behind me, laughter swelled again, distant, celebratory, obscene. The bouquet someone had dropped lay crushed near the steps. Lilies torn and slick with water. I looked up once at the church lights, bright as false mercy, then whispered to the dark, "Numbers don't lie." The rain finally began. The first morning after the funeral, the world was too quiet. No monitors, no beeping, no soft hum of hospital air. Just the creak of my apartment floor and the low groan of the refrigerator that still held Ethan's apple juice boxes. I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee I couldn't drink. The light coming through the blinds painted stripes across the bills piled beside me. Condolence cards were mixed with collection notices, sympathy beside debt. People said, "He's in a better place," but no one said where that left me. I tried to return to work. My desk still had the crayon drawing Ethan made, a stick figure of me holding his hand. The office smelled like toner and parfum, like nothing had changed. But every phone ring sounded like a monitor alarm. By noon, I walked out and never went back. The days blurred. I learned the weight of silence, how it bends time, how it fills rooms that used to hold laughter. The wedding photos appeared online a week later. Claire's smile was perfect, her veil glowing in sunset light. Mom's caption read, "The happiest day of our lives." I stared at that sentence until it meant nothing. Then I deleted my accounts. One afternoon, a letter arrived from my father. No return address, just his handwriting, sharp, familiar, reluctant. We didn't know how to help without breaking everything else. I know that's no excuse. I hope someday you'll forgive us. I folded the paper once and left it on the counter. Some words aren't meant to be answered. The world moved on. It always does. Seasons shifted. The trees outside my window turned green, then gold, then bare again. I took long walks through the park, the one Ethan loved. His favorite bench faced the pond, where ducks drifted like forgotten prayers. I sat there most evenings, notebook in hand, writing things I'd never say aloud. Sometimes I heard Claire's laughter in my memory, bright, careless, young. Sometimes I hated her for it. Other times, I envied her. Grief is strange that way. It keeps changing shape, wearing different masks. One evening, near spring, I saw a small boy chasing bubbles with his mother. He tripped, fell, and started crying. She knelt, wiped his tears, and whispered something only he could hear. And I felt something loosen. Not peace, not yet, but the start of forgiveness. I began volunteering at the children's ward. At first, just paperwork, then story hours. The first time I read aloud, my voice trembled. By the third week, it didn't. A girl named Lucy asked if she could keep the storybook I brought. I let her. And that night, for the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of machines. When the hospital sent me a letter confirming Ethan's charity fund, created from anonymous donations, I almost didn't open it. But I did. Inside was a note, for the boy who taught us what love really costs. No signature. But I knew the handwriting. Mom's. I didn't cry. I just sat there holding that letter, feeling the edges dig into my palms until they hurt. Pain, at least, meant I was still here. Spring came again. The pond thawed. And one morning I left a single white lily on Ethan's bench. Not as a goodbye, but as proof of survival. I whispered, "You're still my every number, kid." Then I turned toward the sunlight. Life after isn't what people promise. It's quieter, smaller, rawer. But sometimes, when the wind hits just right, it sounds like laughter. And for a heartbeat, that's enough.